In a world that never stops buzzing, that glorifies being constantly connected, surrounded and busy, the state of being alone can feel like a punishment. It's equated with loneliness, with isolation, with being left behind. We scroll through feeds filled with crowds and laughter, and we feel the weight of our own quiet rooms. We run from silence because we fear what we might hear in it, our own doubts, our own anxieties, our own unanswered questions. But what if I told you that this very state, this being alone, is not a void to be filled, but a sacred space to be cherished? What if I told you that mastering the art of being alone is, in fact, the direct path to finding the most profound peace you will ever know? The feeling of being alone can be one of the most visceral and unsettling human experiences. It can descend in a crowded room, echo in an empty house, and whisper doubts in the quiet moments between tasks. In our hyper-connected modern age, this feeling is often pathologized, seen as a social failure or a sign of being unwanted. We are conditioned to believe that to be alone is to be forgotten, to be disconnected from the vibrant, swirling mass of humanity that seems to be living just beyond our reach. We scroll through curated windows into other people's lives, their gatherings, their celebrations, their shared laughter, and the silence in our own space can grow deafening. It is in this very silence, in this perceived emptiness, that the first and most crucial battle for peace is fought and won. The victory comes not from filling the silence with noise, but from understanding its true nature. The foundational truth we must anchor our souls to is this: you are never, ever truly alone. This statement is not merely a comforting platitude, it is a radical redefinition of reality based on the core tenets of faith. To believe that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein is to fundamentally alter the architecture of your existence. Think about that imagery for a moment. Your jugular vein is essential, life-sustaining, and intimately a part of you. You cannot escape it. It is woven into the very fabric of your physical being. To say that Allah is closer than that is to say that His presence is more integral to your existence than your own circulatory system. He is not a distant, celestial observer watching from a remote throne. He is the sustainer of every single cell in your body, the knower of every fleeting thought that crosses your mind, the hearer of every silent prayer that forms in your heart before it even reaches your lips. This proximity is not physical in a human sense. It is a proximity of knowledge, of mercy, of absolute sustaining power. When you sit in a room by yourself, you are not in an empty space. You are in the direct, unfiltered presence of the divine. You are, in the most literal sense, in the company of the King of all kings. Understanding this truth transforms solitude from a state of lack into a state of profound opportunity. Consider the difference between loneliness and this divine solitude. Loneliness is a feeling of absence, a yearning for a created being to fill a void. It is a passive state, one that often leads to despair and a sense of helplessness. But the solitude we speak of, the solitude of knowing you are with Allah, is an active, vibrant, and deeply intimate state. It is the difference between sitting in an empty waiting room and sitting in the private chamber of the most powerful and compassionate being in the universe, who has personally invited you for an audience. This is your chance to speak without interruption, to be vulnerable without fear of judgment, to lay bare your fears, your hopes, and your deepest regrets to the one who already knows them and whose mercy encompasses all things. This relationship is the ultimate antidote to the existential loneliness that can plague even the most socially successful individual. You may have a wide circle of friends, a loving family, and a bustling social calendar, and yet, in the quietest corner of your heart, you can still feel a sense of being fundamentally misunderstood or unseen. This is because no human being can fully comprehend the depths of another soul. We are, by our very nature, limited in our perception. But with Allah, there are no such limitations. He knows the secret and the most hidden. He knows why you made that difficult decision years ago. He knows the pain you hide behind your smile. He knows the sincerity of your intentions even when your actions fall short. To be in His company is to be fully known. And in that knowing, to be fully accepted when you turn to Him in repentance and sincerity. This eradicates the root of loneliness, which is the fear of being truly seen and found wanting. With Allah, you are seen in your entirety, your flaws, your struggles, your potential, and you are still loved, still worthy of His attention and His boundless mercy. The practical application of this belief is where theory meets life-changing transformation. It begins with a conscious shift in your internal dialogue. When you feel the pangs of loneliness creeping in, instead of reaching for your phone to seek external validation, you turn inward and upward. You remind yourself, I am not alone. Allah is here with me. You start a conversation with Him, not with formal, rehearsed words, but with the raw, unfiltered language of your heart. Talk to Him as you would to the most trusted, most compassionate confidant. Tell Him about your boring day, your frustrations at work, your anxiety about the future, your joy in a small victory. This is the essence of a dua. It is a personal, intimate conversation. This constant, casual communion is what transforms mundane moments into acts of worship. The drive to work becomes a session of reflection with your Creator. The quiet evening walk becomes a stroll in the garden of His remembrance. The moments spent doing household chores become an opportunity for gratitude and private dialogue. This constant awareness of His presence, known as al-lisan, to worship Allah as though you see Him, and if you cannot see Him, to know that He sees you, becomes the lens through which you view your entire life. It instills a sense of muraqabah, or vigilant self-awareness. You begin to make choices not based on who might be watching from the outside, but based on the fact that Allah is watching from within. This is the highest form of integrity and the deepest source of personal peace. Your actions become aligned with your faith, not out of fear of societal judgment, but out of love and reverence for the One who is always with you. Therefore, mastering the art of being alone begins with this single, transformative realization. The quiet room is not empty, it is a sanctuary. The silence is not barren, it is pregnant with the possibility of divine conversation. The feeling of solitude is not a sentence to isolation, it is an invitation to the most exclusive and meaningful relationship you will ever have. When you internalize the truth that the Creator of the universe is your constant companion, the very concept of loneliness loses its power. It withers away, replaced by a profound and unshakable peace. You carry this sanctuary within you wherever you go. In a crowd, in a meeting, in times of joy and in times of distress, you are never disconnected, never forgotten, never truly alone. You are in the company of Al-Qarib, the ever near. And to be near to the One who is the source of all peace is to have found the ultimate tranquility for your soul. The realization that we are never truly alone because Allah is with us is the foundational truth, the seismic shift in perspective that changes everything. But a truth, no matter how beautiful, must be acted upon to become a lived reality. It requires a bridge from intellectual acceptance to heartfelt experience. This bridge is built through action, through the conscious and deliberate decision to transform our solitude from a passive state of being into an active state of worship. This is the practical artistry of turning empty time into filled moments of divine connection, where every second of silence becomes an opportunity for ibadah. The beauty of this transformation lies in its accessibility and its boundless flexibility. Worship, in the holistic sense intended by our faith, is not confined to the prayer rug or the mosque. It is a state of being, an orientation of the heart toward its Creator. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us that even removing a harmful object from the path is an act of charity, a form of worship. So, how much more can we infuse our solitary moments with this spirit? This begins with reclaiming between moments of our lives, the commute, the wait in line, the quiet minutes before sleep, the early morning dawn when the world is still hushed. We often treat these as dead space, as voids to be killed with distraction, usually through the glowing screen in our hands. But for the believer seeking peace, these are the most fertile grounds for spiritual growth. Consider the pre-dawn hours, a time uniquely blessed by Allah. This is not merely a time to sleep through, but a sacred interval offered to us. The tahajjud prayer is the ultimate embodiment of transforming solitude into worship. It is a voluntary act performed when the rest of the world slumbers. There are no social obligations, no phone calls, no demands of work or family. It is just you in the profound quiet of the night, standing before your Lord. The physical act of rising from bed, of making ablution in the stillness, is itself a powerful declaration of intent. It says, "Oh Allah, this time with you is more valuable to me than my sleep, more precious than my comfort." And in that prayer, the solitude becomes a private audience of the most intimate kind. The whispers of your heart in sujud, the tears that may flow without witness, the recitation of the Quran with only Allah as the listener. This is where the soul is purified and fortified. It is in these moments that you stockpile spiritual strength that will sustain you throughout the noise and chaos of the coming day. But the transformation does not end with the formal prayer. It flows seamlessly into the fabric of our entire day through the practice of dhikr, the remembrance of Allah. Dhikr is the constant, gentle hum of the heart's connection to its source. In solitude, this hum can become a powerful, focused chant. The silent repetition of Subhanallah, Wad Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar as you wash dishes, fold laundry, or walk to your car, turns a mundane chore into a moving meditation. It is a thread that stitches the divine into the very ordinary tapestry of your daily life. You are no longer just a person performing a task. You are a servant, remembering her Lord while engaged in the affairs of the world. This practice actively fights anxiety and brings a tangible calm, because the heart finds rest, as the Quran tells us, in the remembrance of Allah. Furthermore, solitude provides the perfect, undisturbed environment for engaging with the ultimate conversation, the recitation and contemplation of the Quran. Too often we read the Quran as a task to be completed, rushing through a set number of pages. But when we are alone, with our phones away and our minds clear, we can approach it as it is meant to be approached, as a direct address from Allah to us. We can read a single verse or even a single word and sit with it. We can ponder its meaning, its relevance to our current situation, its lesson, its warning, or its glad tidings. This tadabba, or deep reflection, is a form of worship that nourishes the intellect and the soul simultaneously. In that quiet room, as you read the words of your Creator, you are not just reading a historical text, you are receiving a personal message. The stories of the past become lessons for your present. The commands and prohibitions become a guide for your path. The descriptions of paradise and hell become motivators for your actions. The Quran becomes a living, breathing companion in your solitude, its verses illuminating the corners of your heart and mind. This transformation also extends to how we frame our entire existence. The act of simply being, of breathing, of observing the world can become an act of worship when done with the right intention. Sitting in a park, watching the leaves rustle in the wind, can become an occasion to marvel at Allah's creation. Feeling gratitude for the food we eat, even when eating alone, transforms a solitary meal into an act of thankfulness. The very act of abstaining from sin when no one is watching, purely because you know that Allah is watching, is one of the highest forms of worship born from solitude. It is the ultimate expression of sincerity, ikhlas, where your actions are purely for an audience of one. In essence, to master the art of being alone is to become an alchemist of the spirit. You learn to take the base metal of empty time and through the furnace of conscious intention and action, transmute it into the gold of divine connection. You fill your solitude not with the noise of the world, but with the sound of your own spiritual heartbeat, sensing with the remembrance of Allah. Your home becomes a mosque. Your commute becomes a pilgrimage of reflection. Your quiet moments become a continuous prayer. This is not a burdensome task, but a liberating practice. It frees you from the tyranny of boredom and the fear of silence. It ensures that no moment of your life is ever wasted, that every breath can be a means of drawing closer to the divine. When you transform your solitude into worship, you are not just passing time, you are investing it in the only currency that has eternal value. You build a life where you are in a constant joyful and peaceful state of communion, turning the entire world into your place of prayer and every moment of aloneness into an intimate meeting with your Lord.